Hi everyone, it's your girl Quest again. Today I want to talk about our preparation for marriage. I am currently reading this book by the name of Things I Wish I'd Known Before I Got Married by Gary Chapman. He is known for love books. He is the author of the best-selling book, The 5 Love Languages. It's an awesome book. If you're preparing for marriage, if you're in a relationship, even if you're in marriage, I believe that this book is one that you should read. It has a wealth of knowledge that you would blow your mind that you've probably never even thought of. So I'll link the book in the description below. If you haven't liked this channel as yet, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. So many of times I would have heard persons say, oh, don't read no book on marriage right now because you're not married or anything. But personally, I believe that as a young person, we should be preparing ourselves for marriage just like we prepare for our career and other things in life. I once heard that, many pastors, I've heard them say that marriage is next thing to salvation. And if that is such an important aspect of our lives, then just as we prepare for our vocation and our career, we should be preparing for marriage. We should be investing in marriage. We should be reading books and learning and listening to tapes that would help us to be excellent wives and husbands. Not saying everything is going to be perfect, but at least we should be investing in something that we would want to do, just like we do when we want to get a driver's license. We read the exam books, we read the manuals, and just like at school. So why not when we want to get married, we want to skip the steps. Alright, so this topic today is for those singles, those who are engaged, those who are married and want to be better in their marriage. Alright, so stay tuned as we go into today's topic. So this book has 12 chapters, but I'm going to focus on 4 of the chapters in this book. And if you would like for me to do a preview of the other chapters, please let me know in the comment section below. So the first chapter that stood out to me was Toilets Don't Clean Themselves. And it was very interesting to know that when he said toilets don't clean themselves, I was like, what is he talking about? Toilets don't clean themselves. But while reading through the chapter, I realized that a lot of persons do not even take a step back to say, well, I need to know what are my roles in this marriage. He was explaining in his marriage, or when he first got married 2 or 3 weeks into the marriage, he realized that, hey, this toilet is nasty. Like, he'd never seen who was the person who would have been cleaning his bathroom while he was growing up, and he thought it just, it just clean itself. But when he asked his wife turned and said, I thought you were going to clean it. And he was like, I thought you were going to clean it. So that was surprising to me, that something simple as cleaning the bathroom or the toilet can be, a challenge for people in their marriages. And this is all because persons neglect to take the step of counseling, or they neglect the fact of actually speaking to each other and putting things down on a list to say, these would be my roles and this would be your role. If you had this kind of experience in your marriage, let's say you thought your husband would have been the one cleaning the car or mopping out after you would have finished cooking, so this is what this chapter is basically talking about, that our roles before we get married is very essential. We must discuss these things, because if we don't, we can end up with issues in the long term in our marriages, right? So therefore we need to discuss what are the things that we would want to do and what are the things we don't want to do, because you would be surprised of the things that your spouse don't want to do but you have it in the back of your head, oh, he's going to do that. We start to categorize things in, oh, this is the feminine thing and this is the masculine thing, and we just have it in our imagination or in our expectation that they would do this thing, but in the long run that's not what your husband is thinking about, or your wife is thinking about. All right, or your spouse at the time, your girlfriend or your boyfriend at the time. It's just the sad reality. All right, so keep in mind that toilets is very interesting that he put it that way. Toilets don't clean themselves. You need to decide before marriage what will be your roles and stick to that. And it doesn't have to be something in concrete. It can change like every 3 months, every 6 months. But you need to know what works for you and your spouse. All right? So, the second chapter that I want to focus on, not necessarily in any chronological order that is in the book, and that is financial management. The author is basically saying that it is imperative that you must focus on financial management before getting into marriage, because this is something we would have to sacrifice, not only as a woman but as a man. We would have to realize that, okay, your debt becomes my debt, your savings becomes my savings, your health insurance becomes my health insurance. Whatever you come into the marriage with, it's no longer yours or my or I. It is now ours. So you have to come into the marriage with an holistic mindset that is no longer me or I or my. Alright, so that's the one main thing that people get away with, and people think that it's okay to just rush into marriage and say, oh, it's my bank account, oh, this is what I had before. No, it no longer becomes that. And if you can't agree beforehand, this is what you want, then what makes you think that when that person actually get married to you that their mindset would change? No, that's not the case. Alright, at least this is what the author is saying, and he's the one who's the professional on this, and basically just giving you his tips on what he would have learned through the different counseling that he would have encountered. The second thing, as it pertains to money management or financial management for a married couple or preparing for marriage, is who will take charge of the books, and what will you do with your finances. Will you tithe? For Christians, we know we have to tithe, give 10%, 1/10. We also know that we can give to charity, what we will save, what we will invest. These are things conversations that you have to speak about before heading into marriage. And even if you're in marriage right now, you should have already had some amount of a sketch or a plan that you're working to on a monthly basis. One of the tips that he would have stated in the book is that get a couple that would have already been married for about 2 to 3 years and ask them what are their current expenses, what are the things that they find challenging to pay, what is the total sum of the things that they're paying. So that would give you somewhat of a mindset of what to focus on and what is your bracket of expenses that you would have on a monthly basis, and you would know if you can cope with it or handle it. Alright, because it's not something you should just rush into and say, oh, we can deal with it when we reach there. No, it's better to prepare now so that you'll be able to handle it when it comes, and it won't give you that anxiety and all these things that you have to get this done and have to pay this and pay that. No, prepare for it now so that in the end you'll be better and you'll be able to function as a more united couple. So remember, if you haven't liked or subscribed to the channel as yet, please do so before this video is over. Now let's get right back into the third chapter that I want to speak on that stood out to me, and that is that being in love is not an adequate foundation for building a successful marriage. This might sound cliche to you, like, oh, it's love. But what he is basically saying is that some people rush into marriage and they say, oh, I love this person, we're going to provide for each other, and they're the whole butterfly season, and they just rush into marriage. And as we would normally say in Guyana, love don't put food on the table, right? So he's admonishing that after the 2 years period, take things slow. And after the 2 years period, then you would be able to, for some people it's longer, for some people it's shorter. But after that 2 years period, you would be able to see the flaws of that person and to basically deal with it before heading into marriage. So he's saying, once that euphoria of, oh, I'm in love, oh, I would do this, oh, I would do that for the person. Once all of that would have died down, then you would be able to see the true person that you're heading into marriage with. But for some persons, they don't get that opportunity within 1 year, within 6 months. Yes, they have some unicorns who this happened to and nothing, they're all good. But there are some persons who just rush into it, and then the same speed that they went into marriage is the same speed that they get divorced. And we're not looking for that. So I'm not looking for that. So I'm basically advocating through this book that, take your time. It's okay to take your time and get the right preparations before rushing into marriage. And just like Dr. Chapman is saying, love is not an adequate foundation for a successful marriage. So we need to take our time, and we need to learn the opposite partner that we have to build a successful marriage. The fourth chapter I want to talk about that stood out to me is that romantic love has 2 stages. Now, I've never heard of that before, because basically sometimes you don't know until you read, right? And what he was saying is something close to the chapter I spoke of previously, and that is love is not an adequate substance for a successful marriage. So the 2 stages that he's talking about as it pertains to romantic love has 2 stages. Is that the first stage is a very freely and willing stage where, oh, I love you, I will give you this. I love you, I will travel halfway around the world just to see you, even if it's just for the weekend. That's the first stage of love, where you just feel, of romantic love, where you just feel like you would do anything for this person without even thinking what are the consequences or the repercussions for doing what that person would have asked of you to do. That's the first stage of romantic love. Now, the second stage of romantic love is the more serious stage, where you now get to see that person's flaws and the things that you don't like, and now is the time where you intentionally have to love this person. Like, right now I really don't want to love you, I really don't want to get up and cook for you, or I really don't want to take the kids out today, I really don't want to give you the space to do your work. So this is the phase where you have to say, okay, I married this person for better or for worse, and I need to stick with it. Alright, this second phase of romantic love is a more intentional love, where it doesn't come so easy like the first stage, when you would just fly to halfway across the world just to see this person. But this is when you now have to think about the consequences and the things that you're doing, and you're more logical in what you're doing. So this is the second phase of romantic love. Now, those are the 4 chapters that I wanted to speak on today, and I hope that you would have learned something from it. As I said before, this book has 12 chapters, so if you would like for me to go through the other chapters, I would be willing to do so for you. If you haven't liked or subscribed this yet, please remember to do so. Leave a comment below if you enjoyed this video, and what would you like for me to do next. For now, it's your girl Crest, and I hope that you're keeping safe and be smart in this season. And remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a good day. Bye.